time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? Hopefully everybody is sitting down. Hopefully everybody is comfortable, because I don't want you to get injured, because it's going around and it is rough out there on these 49er streets. Today is going to be a wonderful show. We're going to be talking wide receivers. We got a trade. We got roster additions, 49ers players coming back. So it's not all going to be bad, but I am here with the man, Ant. Ant, how we doing today?
Doing good, and it's interesting. You wake up in the morning and you go to the Twitter sphere and you find out that Russell Gage is also hurt. And I think that one kind of cut me deep, because I've been a Russell Gage guy since before training camp happened. And, I really felt like he could help this team. And, the good news is John Lynch goes on KNBR and says, hey, he's going to be ready to go week one. He's going to help this team. And I think that kind of solidifies he's going to be around. Now, how he gets there is going to be another question, because he is a vested veteran. And we know the 49ers might have to do some stuff with the roster. But I think some of it with the wide receivers is interesting, because there's like hints of good news in it, where it's like guys aren't gone forever. But it's still just a interesting state of flux that the 49ers wide receiver room is in right now, and they've got to get some things figured out.
Man, it's right here, Monkey Boy, channeling the inner Dumb and Dumber. We got no RBs, we got no O-line, our receivers' legs are falling off. Like Lloyd Christmas in the house. Well done. It's rough, and like this isn't new for the 49ers. So like, okay, we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna joke. It's not all gonna be negative. That's not what it is. But there has to be an appropriate amount of this is uncanny. I mean, like, okay, like if we just start with Jacob Cowing. And so, like, I'm going to say some things that might, you take them out of context, it's going to sound really bad. But, like, I just want to highlight just how weird this is. Jacob Cowing played 51 consecutive college games without ever missing a game through college. Never missed a game, ever. Through two schools, right? Played at UTEP, goes to Arizona, never missed it. 51 consecutive games played, the smallest guy on the field every single day, never missed a game. He has now, this year, he has more injuries in training camp than practices finished. And, like, I'm not, like, he's a human, and I really like Jacob Cowing, and I'm excited for his future, and I don't think that this is the end for him. But, like, how do you measure or anticipate that these types of things are going to happen? You cannot. And for those of you, and this is a common take, like for those of you that are like, oh, well, it's Kyle Shanahan. Like for us and who have been around for a long time, Chip Kelly was the same way. You go back to, farting in press conferences coach Tom Sula was the same way. Even Harbaugh had one major healthy year. That was 2012. Johnny Dale pointed this out. Like, it's not just a Shanahan issue. This is a 49ers issue. It's not just a training staff. The 49ers under Kyle Shanahan are on their fourth training staff, like health and wellness, whatever. Like, this is something that it permeates much more. It's easy just to point at Shanahan and say it's Shanahan and whatever else. It's more than that. This is some crazy, crazy stuff. How do you make sense of this?
Yeah, with Jacob Cowing, it's an interesting dynamic, with him injuring his hamstring twice. I think that because it's a reoccurring injury, it probably means he just came back a little bit too early or didn't recover quite right. And that's tough. But you're talking about a player that decided he needed to put on weight from last season, right? So he's got himself a little bit bulked up. That's another reason you get muscles, pushing yourself a little bit, too much or different than you have before. And sometimes things spring up. And these guys are pushing themselves to the absolute limit to get ready. But I do believe that we give the training staff too much credit when things are going good and too much hate when things are going bad, because each of these players is their own enterprise. They put so much money into their bodies every single year to stay healthy. Some of them spend $1 million plus to make sure they're on the field. So they're getting the best training from the best trainers, not just the 49ers organization. And so these guys are professionals. It's their job. And so I think that when we talk about things like, stretching and those types of things, I think that these guys know what they have to do and they do it on their own anyways. It's kind of their responsibility. It's a little bit of a different world than a college or high school situation. So I think that the injuries are strange. I think that they pop up, and you can see it when the 49ers don't have injuries. They're really, really good. And when they do, it goes really, really bad. And so I think some of it is bad luck. And then I think there's something, I don't know how to explain it, but there's just something that keeps popping up where these guys have injuries. I think during the Harbaugh days, you could probably blame Trent Baalke because he kept drafting guys that were always, injured when they were drafted. But I think as we're moving to Kyle Shanahan, they've changed their directions when it came to that and tried to get guys who play all the time. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, if you just look at Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, neither one of them has ever missed a game in college. And the amount of injuries those two, the gunshot wound withstanding, but like Pearsall's had 4 injuries. And shoot, he went to the medical tent 2 days ago with a shoulder issue, which he's had several times, but he came back, thankfully. That's the good news. But it's just uncanny. And like, I do I put, like, if it's a knee issue, right? Like, knee buckling, like Russell Gage. Russell Gage is now injured as well. If you haven't heard that yet, probably was going to be a starter. Now he's injured as well. Now he'll probably likely be back week 1, like John Lynch said on KMBR. But like knee buckling, that's not training. That's just going to happen. But soft tissue, hamstring, calf, I'm sorry. I'll put a lot of that on the player. They're going to happen every now and then. But if it's a chronic issue, that's the player type issue. We got a super chat here from Matt Manlin. What's up, man? Maybe this forces Shanahan to run the ball more than he would have. Dude, this is my thoughts exactly, Matt. 12, 21, 22 personnel. So the 49ers historically under the Shanahan regime run the fewest 2 wide receiver sets in the NFL. Now, last year, they kind of went away from that because they didn't have any tight ends. They didn't have any running backs. And so it was like, all right, we're going to throw the ball like crazy. But in all of these in 12 and 21, so the first number is how many running backs you have on the field. The second number is how many tight ends. This is my very first job coaching, Ant. I was in the booth, and I was the personnel guy. So I had the binoculars, right? And I'm up in the press box, and I'm just watching the sidelines, and I've got my sheet of tight ends and fullback numbers, and I'm just like, as soon as they come out, I'm just like 22 personnel, 22, 12, 12, 12, 12, nope, 7, 21. Like, that's all I did for like my first, year as like my varsity. I loved it because it like, you start to realize how much of an impact that makes. So 12 personnel is 1 back and 2 tight ends, which means you'd also have 2 wide receivers. 21 is, that's Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Juszczyk counts as a running back, and George Kittle, also 2 wide receivers. 22 is 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 1 wide receiver. I got asked today, can we run a 4 tight end set? Like, is that a thing? So talk to me just a little bit, Ant, about how the 49ers plan to mitigate the lack of healthy wide receivers that have any type of track record at all, especially week 1. Got to keep in mind, week 1 is one of the most important games of the entire season. I would say top 4, you're going to Seattle, at Seattle, one of the best secondaries in the NFL. I'm not going to lie. Without wide receivers, how do you mitigate that and try to counterbalance your offensive game plan?
Yeah, I think 21 and 12 personnel are going to be, kind of the main groupings that the 49ers are going to be playing in, especially 21 personnel. You got Kyle Juszczyk, you got George Kittle. I mean, and when you have those guys on the field, it does create mismatches, for other players. So I think that it's very important for those guys to be there. Now, I do think they're going to run this offense through George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey to start this season. I think this offense is going to be built around Christian McCaffrey running the ball and then play action passes off of that, which is going to open up some areas for these wide receivers to get open. Now, if Jawan Jennings is out there, that's going to be a big determining factor on how well the 49ers block, especially at the point of attack out on the edge. He's a big reason why they can get to the edge and make some of those runs. If you go and watch the film from the Raiders game, Robbie Chosen struggling to make those kinds of blocks. It's just not what he does, but Pearsall, Jennings, those guys are better blockers. But I think this offense works through Kittle and McCaffrey early. And I think the 49ers always knew this was going to happen because they knew that guys like Demarcus Robinson were going to be suspended and they weren't going to have Brandon Ayuk for the first 6 games, more than likely. And so they've planned accordingly. And those are 2 pretty good players to run your offense through. And that's going to make everybody kind of, engage into the box. You're probably going to get loaded boxes, which means some opportunities for Brock Purdy to kind of get some open receivers down the field, which I think he'll find.
Yeah, shout out to Applesauce. Says, to be fair, Seattle's secondary is mitigated if they have no wide receivers to cover. Yeah, that's genius. Yeah, I love it, man. There's a Monty Python skit somewhere in there. But so here's my whole kind of way that I see it. Whenever I was at the Broncos open practice, the joint practice, the 49ers were 12 and 21 personnel the entire time, all of team. I did not see one wide receiver or one offensive play where they were in 11 at all. This is the plan. It's 12-21, 2 wide receivers. Now, there might be some times whenever you're in a 3rd and long after a penalty or a sack or something bad happens. All right, now we're going to go 11. You got to get some more guys out there with some more speed. But believe you me, this is going to be, I'm channeling the inner Phil Jackson here with the triangle. It's going to be CMC, Kittle, Pearsall. Those are your 3 targets that, man, and all 3 of those players have been heavily favored in practice and training camp. Not so much in the games, not so much in the preseason games. I mean, that first drive, Pearsall had 3 catches on the first 4 plays on the opening drive, and almost all of them for first downs. Yeah, that's what it's going to have to be like. Now, the question is, and it's not just, what you have now. Who knows what's going to happen with Jauan Jennings? So let's backtrack a little bit, Ant. Let's talk about the wide receiver room and the what ifs. Let's play this out, okay? Let's go through the roster. Ricky Pearsall right now, you're putting him in bubble wrap, and you're just like, dude, just stay. Ricky Pearsall is not playing anymore. It's not happening. Jauan Jennings, John Lynch talked about it. Kyle Shanahan talked about it. You got to practice. You're not healthy enough to practice, and maybe put air quotes around healthy. You're not going to be ready to play. We saw that with Ayuk last year with all the contract stuff. And, he finally shows up, practices a few times, goes out there. Not the same Ayuk. Don't expect Jennings to be the same guy either. He's not practicing. So what are your thoughts real quick on just Jauan Jennings? Obviously, the contract's a big deal. I think that's a bigger deal than the cap, to be honest with you. But what is your reliability rating on Jauan Jennings week 1?
Yeah, I think the rhetoric from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan has kind of changed my opinion. I thought that this was probably more injury than contract related, but some of the things that they're saying make me now lean towards Jauan could probably be out there. He's just not. And so they're throwing out there, you have to practice to be ready to go for the game because they know he doesn't want to miss game checks. And they know he doesn't want to sit out, and they don't want to be, they're basically starting to say, hey, if you're not out there practicing, we might not play you week 1. And I think that that's what they're trying to do is get him to decide to get out on the field because they don't want to come to an agreement on a new contract. I think he wants to test free agency, and they're not going to, if they can't come to an agreement on an extension, I don't think the 49ers are interested in doing that. So they don't want to give him more money this year. They don't want to rip up his current contract. They don't want to do that. So I think this is one of those things where they're kind of in a holding pattern, and they're trying to apply some pressure through the media, which they do a lot, to Jauan Jennings to say, hey, get out on the field. You're ready to go. They're just being very subtle with it, and that was one of the things Kyle said. Brandon Ayuk was healthy last year. He was just out. Jauan's not healthy, but I think he's kind of implying that he could be ready to go. And I think Jauan needs to be out there, and I think he will because I don't think he wants to lose game checks. He's not dug in enough. He hasn't earned enough money in his career to sit back and lose game checks. So I do think Jauan's going to end up getting out there. I won't be shocked if all of a sudden next week we start hearing rumblings that Jauan Jennings is going to be ready to go.
I hope so. And, Ronnie says, John Ant, what's a realistic deadline for the team to get? They're not getting a contract done. They're not. And so, here's kind of the chicken or the egg come first because, Mark says it's going to get done Tuesday. I don't think so. I am more of the idea of Jedi here. JJ needs to be ready to put up good tape if he wants to get paid. You go out there and you put up a stinker, that's going to affect your long-term pay. And so, it's kind of a game of chicken with the 49ers and JJ. Dude, we're not giving you a new contract. No, you need to play. And if Juwan Jennings would just come play, then a lot of these issues would be resolved because we've already seen what Juwan Jennings and Russell and Ricky Pearsall look like as your 1 and 2. That's what the 49ers want. That's what you need. JJ ain't out there. And, shout out to Shane. We do not have a good history of guys skipping training camp, coming back for the season, and looking good. It ain't going to look good. You got to practice. And so, Mark, JJ is suffering from contractitis. I do agree with there. You got to play. And it's what it is. Cam, this is what I've wanted them to do all along is just give, Juwan Jennings an extra $2 million, $2.5 million guaranteed so that he could come out and play. But I think it's past that point now. Now I'm just like, nope, I'm not giving you more. Like any goodwill that we have built up, you've kind of sacrificed. And if you really are hurt, then that money ain't going to help you anyway. So you're saying you're hurt. We're going to take you at your word, man. So I'm to the point now where it's kind of the cutoff and it's like play or don't play. Like we'll move on without you. We got guys falling. We're struggling out here and you're sitting there. So either 1, you're really hurt and you can't practice anyway. All right, cool. Or 2, it's all about the money and it's not about these guys out here. This ain't the time for that. Like these are guys that you're going to battle with and you're kind of hanging them out to dry. And it's not like you're on a rookie deal. You're getting paid. Like you have a substantial contract. I know it's not as much as you were worth after that 1 year of production, but your boys are in the trenches taking grenades and you're over here. So either 1, you're really hurt and you can't practice, or 2, it's about the money and not the team at this point, even though you're on your second contract. I'm sorry, man. That's just it. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that take. I don't mind. You got to do what you got to do. And this is kind of where I soured on Ayuk and stuff last year, because at some point it just becomes about you. And as soon as that happens, it's not about the team. It's not about your brothers. It's about you first and foremost. And that's kind of seems to be where it is right now. Am I crazy, Ant? Tell me I'm crazy, Ant. We don't disagree enough. Tell me I'm flat out wrong, Ant, please.
Well, it's kind of weird for me when it comes to injuries is I've always been the kind that, as long as they get back at a certain point, I'm not too concerned about it. And we know how veterans are about training camp, and some of the work that they have to put in there. And Juwan Jennings did deal with a calf last year. So I don't think it's a stretch to say maybe it was bothering him a little bit. But I do believe that we're getting to that window after this preseason game with the Chargers where it starts making sense for him to go out there and start practicing and getting ready for the season. And if he goes out there and he gets 2 good weeks of practice, I think he'll be just fine. He started training camp out there practicing. He looked really good in that time. He's taken a hiatus, whether that was injury reasons or contract injuries or both. We don't know, but I do believe if he gets out there in the next week or so, I think it's going to be good. And I think he'll go right back in. He'll get chemistry. He'll get comfortable. And I think he'll be ready to go. So I have some faith in Juwan, and I don't get pressed about some of the middle parts of training camp practices for veterans who have been around for a long time and know what expectations are. The rookies I worry more about, guys who are going to miss practice for a long time, like Jordan Watkins, that kind of stunts his growth of what he's going to be able to do. But Juwan, he knows the ins and outs of this playbook. He knows what's expected. He missed a lot of training camp last year, still came on and had one of the best, or his best season in the NFL. So I still have a lot of faith that he could do it.
Yep, there we go. Filthy Casual says, I am crazy. I'll take the bait. JJ is almost 30. This is his last chance at generational wealth for his family. If he practices and gets hurt, no contract. He is hurt. And it's not his rookie contract. He's on a second contract. Like he signed that second contract. And I side with the players almost all the time. And so, yeah, that's okay. Agree to, disagree. I'm totally cool with that. And I love Juwan Jennings. But at this point, man, it's becoming detrimental to your team. And that's where I'm at. Like, if there was going to get something done, now your job, my mindset as a 42-year-old, whatever, that doesn't have generational wealth is, all right, I've got to go put up the best tape possible. I'm going to have more playing time opportunities early on till Brandon Ayuk gets back to showcase I'm a number 1 to the rest of the NFL. That's the way that I would see it. That's not the way Juwan sees it. It is absolutely not the way that Juwan sees it. And that's okay. The disagreements are allowed. I don't hate the guy. I'm just saying I'm allowed to be critical, and just like you are allowed to be critical of me. And so I think he's starting to hurt himself now because, again, you're seeing wide receivers get traded like crazy. And man, the wide receiver market's off the freaking charts. It's stupid right now. But who's going to trade for Juwan Jennings if he can't practice? How are you going to trade a guy like teams like, oh, well, he can't play. He says he's hurt. Well, nobody's going to trade for that. So you can't trade him. I'm not signing him to a deal. Your future is Brandon Ayuk, who you already signed. And again, I was signed Juwan Jennings before Ayuk, but that's where we are. Shout out to my man, Phil. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Hope it's not too late for JJ. He's one of my favorites. He's a lot of them. He's earned so much trust and respect from this fan base, from this team. It's kind of where we are. Shout out to Phil. He's one of the best ever. Can't wait to see you in Seattle, brother. Hope all is well. Filthy Casual says, just be a devil's advocate. I love it. I love it. Always, dude. Always. Right here, JJ says, I love JJ. It's not personal. Dude has a contract. There's lots of different takes on this, and I get all of them. It all makes sense. Now, we still got a lot of wide receivers to talk about. So here's the thing we're going to do next. We're going to jump to Skyy Moore. We're going to talk about the contract. We're going to grade the trade and kind of what are the realistic expectations for Skyy Moore, the newest 49ers wide receiver right after this. 49ers Rush Road Trip is going into its 6th year with over 40 events at road games. If you are traveling to see the 49ers play this year, you got to come party with us. And on top of that, we give games, trivia, giveaways. We've partnered with TickPick this year. All you have to do is search 49ers Rush on any of the TickPick sites, apps, you name it. And on top of all of that, best dressed, giveaways, autographed jerseys, kids are always included, and get in for free with a ticketed adult. And a lot of times for select cities, we will have 49ers legends come out and you get to meet and greet them and get an autograph. Navarro Bowman, Frank Gore, Patrick Willis, Fred Warner are all players that we have worked with in the past. And trust me, if you want to build the 49ers community, you're traveling by yourself, we got you covered. 49ersRushRoadTrip.com. All right, so Seattle, the details are done. Week 1, we're close, man. We're like 3 weeks away. The day before the game, we'll be partying with Frank Gore at the press box from 2 to 6 p.m. Get your tickets. Kids are free to every event we will ever host. That is very important. Then we got to tailgate the day of. It's literally the closest possible lot to the stadium. We'll party. It's premium drinks, premium tailgate, premium everything. It's going to be an absolute blast. We're starting 9 a.m. Then we'll do a walk to the stadium. That's in Seattle. Our New Orleans stuff, which is, good Lord, we're going to host 4 events in 8 days in 2 separate time zones. It's going to be a blast. We're going to be partying on Bourbon Street in Seattle at the Bourbon Street Drinkery, 2 stories. We rented the whole venue out. It's going to be a blast the day before. And then we've got an awesome tailgate set up in Seattle with a seafood station. It's going to be off the charts. It's my birthday, September 14th. So come party with us on our birthday. Have a good time. I cannot wait. It's going to be great. But if you're coming to any of the events, man, come with us. We are throwing events at every freaking road game this season. Hope to see you guys out there. So let's talk Skyy Moore. The 49ers make a trade. It's what 49ers fans wanted. Go trade, go trade. And then everybody saw the name, and it was like, but I do think that there is something to be had here. So the 49ers do a 2027 pick swap. You give up your 6th, and you got back a 7th rounder, and you've got wide receiver Skyy Moore. I initially graded this a B because I think you got what you paid. Like, you didn't give up a lot, but you didn't really get a lot either. You've got a kick return, punt return specialist with some wide receiver chops that has played in the NFL and will be able to help be kind of a depth piece at wide receiver. What were your thoughts just on the initial addition and trade of Skyy Moore?
Yeah, I thought it made a lot of sense. You haven't really had Junior Bergen, develop into that return guy that was going to be dynamic. So you needed that. And I think that Skyy Moore definitely helps there. I mean, the guy just had an 88-yard, big time play against the Seattle Seahawks. So this guy's got the chops to be able to be a big time returner. And you had Jacob Cowing go down, and that's your normal punt return guy. So you had question marks about that. So Skyy Moore fills a immediate need, in my opinion, when it comes to kick return, punt return. And now he's got the ability to make some things happen. And we've seen the 49ers kind of carve out a role for a similar player like this on offense with Ray McLeod. So you have a guy that you can kind of equate to that. Now, I don't think Skyy Moore is going to come in and change the game when it comes to playing wide receiver, but I do think he's going to have some opportunities, catch the ball, push the ball vertically down the field, which they need right now. No Jordan Watkins, no Jacob Cowing. Where is the speed element to this offense? Those clearing out routes, 49ers don't really have it. Skyy, he can bring that. If you sleep on it, he's going to be walking in the end zone because Brock Purdy will find him. And I get all the, the conversation about he didn't really tear it up when he was with Kansas City. And I understand that. But this is a different system. He's going to be asked to do different things. And I think that he's going to have some chances to make some plays for this team. So I don't think it's a big-time name or a big-time trade, but I think it's something they needed, both special teams-wise and depth on offense. So I think they did a pretty good job. And I think you grading it a B is probably right where it should be, especially with just a pick swap. It's really no risk there. You got him for a year, see what he can do, and hopefully he helps your football team.
Yeah, and shout out to Ben, NY Niners. Getting a player for a 6-7 pick swap for 2 years from now is basically free. This guarantees, basically says we need him here now. like we're not going to wait for somebody to get cut. This is the lowest price that you could possibly pay. I guess you could have done 3 years out. You're allowed to trade 3 seasons out, but yeah, I mean, this is about as cheap as you could possibly get. And, I put up there that I do expect the 49ers to make a trade, but I said this beforehand. It's got to follow that younger, cheaper narrative. And so, it's going to have to be a rookie contract, and it's going to have to be not for a lot of collateral. Check. Like that, they fit that. And so, I grade this a B because I think you're getting back the player for what you paid for. Skyy Moore will make the 53-man roster. He's going to be your punt returner. He's going to be your kick returner. And I think it was Mark in the chat earlier who said, I think that, right here, this was my thoughts initially. Skyy Moore might just be a Junior Bergen replacement. Junior Bergen has not looked the part. Looks slow. Is not helping at all at the wide receiver position. Junior Bergen was always a luxury pick. And they even said after they drafted him, he's going to be a returner. Wide receiver, will throw him in. That's kind of one of my issues with the 49ers is that they use these luxury picks all the damn time. And, whether it's the highest drafted kicker in the NFL, highest drafted punter in the NFL, drafted returner only, all that's I'm just no, those are wasted picks. Now, how often does a 7th round pick make the roster as, just a player only? Well, I can tell you this. Brock Purdy was picked later than Junior Bergen was. Not saying there's a Brock Purdy out there, but if you told me there's a 1 in 100 chance or 1 in 1,000 chance that 7th round pick could be Brock Purdy, at least take a swing. Don't use it on a luxury piece. And so now you used it on a luxury piece and you're already, we can't afford it. So we got to move on. So I don't know. Junior Bergen has not looked good. He looks very, very slow returning those kicks and struggles to get past the 30-yard line, which is not good. So now you have Skyy Moore. He's going to be the returner. And you were fine with the Junior Bergen experiment because you're oh, well, Jacob Cowing can do the same thing. Now Jacob Cowing's hurt. So it kind of just, it struggles when you get to the numbers. And that's what I want to do next. I want to talk with you, Ant, and let's just go from where we are right now. Let's try to anticipate, and let's go through and let's make our 53-man roster cuts at the wide receiver position, okay? So, and now a couple, Brandon Ayuk's going to be on the pup, so he's not in this conversation. Usually the 49ers keep 5 to 6 wide receivers. All right, let's go through it. Number 1 wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, is making the roster, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Juwan Jennings, what are we doing with him? Is he just making the roster? Are we going to put him on, IR to return? What are we doing with Juwan Jennings?
He's on the roster. He's going to be playing week 1. He ain't missing a check.
Yeah, not missing a check. So that's 2. So you got Pearsall, you got Jennings, even if Jennings can't play. Okay, who's your my next guarantee is Isaiah Hodgins, who I think starts week 1 as your number 3 wide receiver. Are you in? How are we feeling about Isaiah Hodgins?
I would go Russell Gage over Isaiah Hodgins because of the scheme fit and some of the things that he does. I think he's just a little bit different. He has a little bit more dynamics to his game, but I think Hodgins has got a shot to make this team. I just would go Gage first.
But the injury and the fact that Russell Gage is going to miss the next 10 to 14 days, but should be ready week 1, that doesn't. So, like, they were close to me, and I had Gage a little bit up as well. But, like, the injury for me tilted the scales just the opposite way. You're saying even with the injury, John Lynch's comments on KNBR, we think he's going to be ready week 1. You're still going Gage as your number 3.
But yeah, Gage is a red zone threat. I mean, the guy scores touchdowns, and he's also a guy that's proven to have, 750-yard seasons. Like, this has been an accomplished wide receiver. Kyle likes these guys that are accomplished, that know how to route run and know how to do the nuances of route running. And he's further along for sure than Isaiah Hodgins. I think that Kyle's going to have more of an affinity for him than Hodgins, but Hodgins is a very good player when it comes to competition and getting those, stick moving plays. I just think they do it in different ways.
Gotcha. Yeah, both have been taking reps with the ones, kind of, back and forth. So, all right, so we're going Russell Gage, even with the injury, over Hodgins. Then Jordan Watkins, he's making this roster no matter what. And with his injury timeline, they're expecting him back in about a week or so. Not worried about IR, not worried about any of that with him. So that's 4. And then Skyy Moore, that's 5. So the question is, you got Robbie Chosen. You've got you got Isaiah Hodgins, you got Tariq Owens, Malik Turner, Malik Knowles. That's all you got. Now, Jacob Cowing, does he make the 53, or do you put him on IR to return? He missed a month the last time his hamstring acted up, and he already retweaked it. So, like, what do you do now with Jacob Cowing? Because if you put him on your 53 man and he's not going to play for a while, that's a horrible roster spot. Or do you put him on the IR to return? Like, what do we do now with Jacob Cowing? We don't know the timeline. We don't know the details, but he missed a month the first time with his hamstring, tweaked it right off the bat. How do you handle Jacob Cowing now? Do you just cut him? Like, you're kind of stuck in this no man's land because you need him. But the dude has a practice. What do you do with them?
Well, I think that there always is the possibility that they could cut him. I mean, we've seen the 49ers do this. Now, I do think that they like Jacob Cowing. They liked how he looked during the offseason so far, and the injuries have definitely hampered that. You could put him on the IR and determine that he's going to come back as one of those 2 spots that you're allowed to do so. Or you could do what probably makes the most sense is you go to Isaiah Hodgins or Russell Gage or Robbie Chosen, and you say, hey, we are going to release you. You are vested veterans. We're going to release you. We're going to have Jacob Cowing on our active 53-man roster. Then once everything becomes official, we're going to put him on IR. We're going to bring you back, and you're going to be playing week 1. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. And when you have 3 vested veterans like that, it makes the most sense to use those guys accordingly. I even think that depending on how Jordan Watkins looks, he might end up being an IR guy as well, especially with Kyle's comments about, hey, he's going to, it's really going to hurt him. He's not going to be able to help us in the beginning of the season. He might look for one of these veterans. So we know that those guys can also be on the practice squad and be elevated. Maybe that's what they do with Watkins. But I think Cowing is now becoming an IR potential. And I think that the vested veterans help you with that. We know Robbie Chosen really wants to be in San Francisco. So if they told him, hey, we need to cut you, but we're going to bring you back the next day, he'll be like, no problem. I'm good with it. They'll kick him an extra nickel. It also doesn't have their contracts are no longer guaranteed, which is huge for the 49ers. We know that they like that, not having to guarantee those contracts for those veterans.
Yeah. And, Invader, like, here's the rules for IR. You get 8 returns in the year. You only get 2 pre-designated return from IR on the initial 53. Kevin Givens going to be 1. A lot of people, myself included, was thinking Corey Kiner might be, but they already handled that one. They signed him, done for the year. He out. So, like, you still have an extra spot that you could bring back. Doesn't mean you have to use it because, again, you get 8 returns in the regular season. If you use those 2 predetermined, now you're down to 6. Now you get a couple more spots, 2 more if you make it to the postseason. So that's a new rule in the IR that I really, really do like, that they kind of finesse that. But the 49ers have not done well with this last year. Last year, you kept freaking Ambry Thomas on there and let a lot of quality players go. And then you ended up, Ambry Thomas started throwing a fit in the middle of the year. And then they cut him. And, like, that was a spot that they just wasted and never even used. He never played a snap. So the 40, and you've seen them try to do it with DJ Reed. We all remember that one where they tried to like, hey, we're going to cut him. We don't think anybody's going to get him. Seattle takes him, and now he's like freaking, a top 20 corner in the NFL. Like, there have been some misses, but there have been some gains too. Evan Anderson, like, they cut him last year, and Kyle even was on record saying, well, we really hope we can get him back. And thankfully they did. Sam O, like, there's a lot of different guys that they did this with. And, sometimes you get got. Don't get got, right, Omar? That's The Wire. Anybody? Come on, man. My favorite show all the time. But this is kind of the area that you're in now. And I think that this trade for Skyy Moore makes it where it's like, look, Skyy Moore is making this roster because it's stable. You have your returner set now. You have that. You have a depth veteran piece that gets to practice for 3 weeks. So he's going to learn. And, I don't think he's going to be a starter. But, dude, you can put in some jet sweeps for him. You can put in some screens. He can learn one of the wide receiver roles. Like, he's going to be just fine. It's just like, man, it's intense. And so you're hoping you can get this handshake gentleman's agreement done with, one of the vets. Because, again, for those of you who don't know the roster rules, guys like Isaiah Hodgins, Russell Gage, and Robbie Chosen, when they get cut, they don't get claimed. They get to pick where they go. So if you don't have the vested veteran status, 4 years in the league, if a team says we claim you, you don't have a choice. If the Tennessee Titans, so like if you cut Jacob Cowing and the Tennessee Titans claim you, Jacob Cowing can't say no. You either go play for the Titans or you don't play in the NFL. Those are your only two options. They have your rights, your designated rights. But when you're a vested vet, you get to pick. So the Titans could say, hey, Russell Gage, we want you to come play here. And he'll go, nope, I'm staying right here. I already, now this is against the rules and the illegal tampering and whatever else, but you'd be a fool not to believe it happens. We've done it with Willie Snead. We've done it with Chris Conley. We've done it with, there's a couple more, Trent Taylor. We've done it, like the 49ers have done this at the wide receiver position time and time and time again. And what they'll do is they'll say, look, we'll give you an extra $100,000 guaranteed when we bring you back on the contract and elevate you for the practice squad weeks 1 and 2. And so you just work those parameters out, make sure nobody's cell phones are on, whatever else, nobody's recording, you don't get in trouble, which is funny because Kyle Shanahan records every single meeting room. I don't think he has a camera in his office, though. He's not going to get in trouble there. So you're comfortable with going, like, how many wide receivers do you carry then? So Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, Jordan Walk, and Skyy Moore. You think they might just go with 4 wide receivers on the initial 53, knowing you're bringing in a vet?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think that they could go low at certain positions so they can kind of maneuver guys around and make sure that they can keep players. We do know that Brandon Ayuk is going to account for one of those spots coming back. That'll be one of the 8. We know Etor Gross-Matos more than likely is going to account for another one. So they're already down to 6. So there is some opportunity here to kind of move guys off and then bring them back. And I do think guys like Russell Gage, who was on the practice squad all last year for the 49ers, a guy like Robbie Chosen, who went to Miami but admitted he wished he would have never left San Francisco when he was offered a spot last year, and Hodgins, who was on the practice squad. They've been with this roster. They're invested in the 49ers organization. So I do think that they would be willing to do something like that to help this football team out as long as they know they're coming back. And I do think that, Kyle Shanahan kind of breeds this environment where guys want to feel invested to the team and he feels invested to them and likes to help them out. So he's going to be honest with these guys, and I think they appreciate that. So I do think there's a chance they kind of save guys in other areas initially until they get them on IR. Or they do the roster type things they need to do. So it could be 4. I think it's probably the most likely it's 5, but I would be really surprised if it's 6. And remember, last year was 7 because they kept Ronnie Bell, which was a crazy move when you look back at it now.
Ronnie Bell had such a good training camp. That dude was so good in training camp. Like, that's the thing. Like, most people don't get to see training camp. Some guys are just practice players. Some guys aren't. Big Brick. So you can't do this anymore. Big Brick says, given is a vested vet, so he could be cut to free up one of the IR spots. The CBA has changed this in the NFLPA to where if a player's injured and you cut them or release them, they have to have the injured IR status so that the teams can't do this, because teams used to do this all the time. So, yeah, some teams might still get by with this, but you can get dock picks for that. So that's why you have to publish and make public the injured status of players so that teams can't do this anymore. So yeah, technically you could, but whenever you already said Kevin Givens Peck's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So if you cut him, he's on IR ending for you. So you could cut him, but he's not allowed to play this season for the 49ers again. Another team could claim him, but the CBA and the NFL Players Association kind of watch out for this stuff. So technically, yes, you could, but that's not allowed. And that's one of the things that's like a no-no, is cutting vested injured players to bring them back with the idea of that. They don't allow that in the new CBA. Technically you can, but you could get in big trouble. And the fact they already said he's going to miss most of the year, that's not a viable option for the 49ers. But it used to be back in like the 80s, they used to do that. And the new CBA was like, dude, certain teams are taking advantage of this. It's screwing over the veterans and whatever else. And so they kind of got rid of it. Now, there's lots. I want to focus a little bit. I want to change. All right. We're going to shift gears here. I want to focus on the players that are back at practice, and I want to focus on the timeline of players that are about to return to practice, because it's not always sad and it's not always bad. There are good things out there that are taking place. So just pay attention to that. And right here, if you go, like, I went to the Raiders preseason game. A lot of people don't know this. I don't buy tickets to games until I'm walking to the stadium. I'm going week 1, Seattle. I haven't even looked at tickets. I'm going to be buying tickets when I leave the tailgate, because the TickPick app, whenever I buy tickets on there, they are instantaneous transfer tickets. So because of that, man, don't use other apps because they ain't going to work. But if you go to any sporting event or any concert, whatever, you got to use this app. Hey, Niner faithful, if you're looking for tickets to see the 49ers play this season, TickPick is the destination for the best deals you'll find on tickets with absolutely no hidden fees. TickPick guarantees the best price on tickets to every NFL game and beyond. Download the TickPick app and use code NINERS, NINERS, at checkout to save $10 on your first order. Again, that's code NINERS. Get your tickets ready today to cheer on the team with the rest of the 49ers Rush community. And all of our events for the 49ers Rush road trip are sold exclusively on the TickPick app or tickpick.com. Just search 49ers Rush. All right, let's talk about players returning to practice. None bigger than the big Nick Bosa. So I'm just going to go through a quick list. And I want Anthony to kind of highlight a couple of these guys that he thinks can make an immediate impact. Nick Bosa's back. Jason Pinnock's back. Isaac Guerendo's back. Renardo Green's back. Samo, my personal favorite, and Jordan Elliott is back. Man, those are guys that have already returned at some way, shape, and form. And that's not even close to the list of guys we're about to go to that are, again, close to return. But for the guys that are back, Bosa, Pinnock, Guerendo, Green, Okwanu, and Elliott, what do you think about these guys and what they offer in their immediate return?
Yeah, what's crazy is we could talk about all those guys and the immediate impact that they're going to make, because all of them are going to have, a big part of what the 49ers do. I'm not going to talk about Bosa. That's too obvious. I'm going to talk about first Renardo Green. I think that Renardo Green coming back really stabilizes that secondary. And one of the things I loved was what Deommodore Lenoir had to say about Renardo Green. And there's one person that knows Renardo Green. It's me. I've watched him play a ton of football in college. I love this player. He was one of my guys in that draft. I was sold on him, and he has continued to prove that he's a playmaker around the football. And I think the 49ers really need that. But we've seen Dallas Flowers do a pretty good job. Renardo Green's a step up from Dallas Flowers. This is going to be a guy that can come in and compete and be the new Deommodore Lenoir, the guy that comes on the scene that's the new guy that's making plays, and he's going to get some looks, and he's going to have to make some plays. But I think he's going to make things easier for that 49ers safety room. And so getting those guys out there is going to be important. Now, the second one is probably going to surprise people, but I'm going with Jordan Elliott. I think Jordan Elliott is going to make an instant impact because of his ability to create penetration. This guy has flash plays where he gets in the backfield and he makes something happen, causes losses. And that's something the 49ers defensive line doesn't really have from the interior right now. Kalia Davis is doing a great job. I think Kalia Davis is going to be a starting defensive tackle week 1 in Seattle. But I think Jordan Elliott's going to be his running mate. And I think that those two guys can make an impact. And what I love about it the most is it creates a rotational situation for Alfred Collins and CJ West and Evan Anderson and Sebastian Valdez, whoever it ends up making the roster behind. And that's going to be really nice to see those guys be able to rotate through. You got those run stoppers. And then when you get to third down, if you want a defensive tackle, you could go Jordan Elliott or Kalia Davis, and they're going to provide some pass rush. So I like that Elliott is back, and I like that Renardo Green is back.
Yeah, and I'm seeing some people talking about Elliott getting cut. I'm not a Jordan Elliott truther, okay? I want to be very clear. But he is the only vet in that entire defensive tackle room. It is the youngest defensive tackle room in the NFL. It ain't even close. You ain't got none but rookies and second-year players in there. That's it. Jordan Elliott's going to start, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Jordan Elliott's a starter. CJ West might have been, but that injury now is going to, we'll talk about him in a second. But like, I'm telling you right now, Jordan Elliott's starting week 1. And maybe he does I'm not a Jordan Elliott guy, but I can tell you Kocurek and Kyle Shanahan love him. And you need veteran presence. You don't have any. There's no vets in that room. They are young. And I'm just telling you, Jordan, am I crazy to like Jordan Elliott starting week 1, guys? Yeah,
I've been saying this since the very beginning. I just felt like the 49ers made a decision to go Jordan Elliott over Malik Collins. You know, Malik Collins, a 10+ year veteran. Malik Collins is a better football player, but Jordan Elliott was the cheaper, younger option for them. And he's the one veteran they have. And Kevin Givens, right, is injured now. He would have provided some of this. So you could have made a decision, but they're not going to cut him. If they were going to do anything, it would be trade him. And there's a lot of teams that were looking for defensive tackles, but we haven't seen him move. And the reason is they need him. I mean, that's the truth. They need Jordan Elliott right now. Maybe they won't at some point when Alfred Collins and CJ West and Sebastian Valdez develop a little bit more. Then, yeah, they can move on. But for this year, I do think Jordan Elliott's going to be starting, and I think he's going to be impactful. But we're going to have to live with he's going to make a couple of big plays, and he's going to have some where it's a real struggle, and you're going to take the good and the bad with Jordan Elliott. That's just who he is. He flashes, and then he has plays you're like, ooh, that's not good. And I think we just got to live with that. But they like that upside of those big-time flashy plays.
Yeah, and I'm with you here, Big Brick. It's going to be Jordan Elliott and Kalia Davis as your starters, assuming they stay healthy. That's a big assumption. Knock on wood, whatever. But, like, those are your 2 starters. And then you rotate in the young pups and situational things, and you allow them to learn and try to figure some of that stuff out. But yeah, I'm telling you right now, like, I don't think that's penciled in as the starters. CJ West had a chance to win that job. The injury kind of makes it now where it's like, look, we're going to kind of just step back a little bit, go with the guy. And man, Kalia Davis was bad in camp. I'm going to be very real, like honest, like, but in those preseason games and joint practices, he started to flash a lot of violence and consistency. That's what you got to have. And so I really do think that those are going to be your 2 starters early. Not sure that's what it's going to be eventually, but yeah, Collins not up to speed. I will say the tape on Collins was way better than I felt. You agree, Coach?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think Alfred Collins is improving. And, you know, that was one of the things I said from the Denver Broncos game was, let's see what these guys do the next week. Can they get a little bit better? Maybe they had 2 good plays. Can they have 3 good plays in a row? You know, just build some consistency. And I thought that's what we saw. We saw a couple bad plays from Alfred Collins, one where he really got blown up. It's like, welcome to the NFL. You get somebody underneath you, 2 guys, they're going to blow you up in the NFL. You can't just live off your size. But he responds. He gets his pad level low, and when that happens, he's going to be just fine. He's learning. He's developing. At some point, it's going to click. Just when does it click? Same thing with Nick Martin. When does it click? I think that's the question.
And I'll continue to say this, like another 2 elite hustle plays by, you know, Alfred Collins back-to-back weeks, like not good hustle plays. I'm talking like, man, you put this on the projector and you show the whole team, like you clap it up like what this dude's doing. Biggest dude on the field, 6'6", 330, making plays 25 yards down the field outside the numbers. Like it's there. There's things, but he ain't ready. And, you know, probably if we could tie in, you know, this Big Brick says any update on Evan Anderson's possible return. He's back, but he's not playing well. This is a case of testament. Like his tape was really, really bad, but he missed time. You don't just come back and flip a switch and now it's good. You have to get into football shape. You got to work on your leverage, your technique, and strength, and all these different moves to get to where you want to be. We talked about it with JJ. We talked about it with Ayuk last year. Even Nick Bosa struggled with his contract thing. It permeates all positions. Evan Anderson was playing starter level football at the end of the season last year. Now, pass rush aside, that's not what he does. He's a run stuffer. But I had no problem if Evan Anderson was starting this year, week 1. But he's not at that place after coming back from the injury. It takes time. So Evan Anderson's back, but he is not football back. And so, he's making this roster, and I love the upside, and I love what he brings and the consistency. But, man, you watch that tape, and it was just man, who is 58? What is happening out there? This ain't Evan Anderson. It takes time, man. That's just what it is. And so now let's transition and let's talk about, I want to go through a list of players that are going to be returning soon. And again, any type of quote or whatever that Shanahan or what any of the coaches have said, I kind of tied in there. Upton Stout. This is a big one. Shanahan said, I hope close. It also said sooner than later to returning. We've talked about getting back in football shape. Upton Stout was ready to take the NFL by storm till he got hurt. Is it enough time for him to come back, if he comes back next week, to be talked about a week 1 starter? Or has Dallas Flowers played well enough? Has Chase Lucas played well enough to where, man, you know what, Upton Stout, you're going to make the roster 100%. But are you comfortable if he's back for 2 weeks of practice to start week 1, even though he never has live reps against another team? Didn't do any of the joint practices, didn't do any of the preseason games. What do you need to see from Upton Stout to christen him a starter week 1 against Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp?
And Robert Saleh has to sign off on it. I think if Robert Saleh says, hey, this is our guy, and he's going to start at nickel, then I'm sold on it, because Robert Saleh is a guy that he knows what he wants. He knows what he sees. And I've seen him cover Ricky Pearsall. This dude was like Velcro on Ricky Pearsall sometimes. So there is the ability there. I do question whether the 49ers would actually start him week 1 now that he's missed so much time. I do believe if he comes back next week, there's still a shot, right? 2 weeks to get prepared. I think that's a tough task to go against Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp and that Seattle offense where Sam Darnold's going to want to get rid of the football quickly. That could be a little bit more difficult for him, but I don't think he's out of the mix. I think it's probably the most likely right now, crazy to say, that Chase Lucas is probably your starting nickel corner week 1, minus, Trey Brown. Let's see what happens. He hasn't come back either. He's been dealing with the heel. But now I've kind of put him on the back burner because he's just not healthy. He hasn't played any nickel during those games, but he's still the one that knows Jackson Smith and Jigba the best. He still knows Cooper Kupp because they played against each other. So there's familiarity there, but I still would lean towards Chase Lucas right now, but I wouldn't count out Upton Stout either.
Yeah, I know Stout's their guy and they love him. And man, you might be one of the players of the camp, but no live action. I don't know. Maybe you phase him in. That's what I would like, but they don't really do that. Robert Saleh does it. He likes to stick with their guys because they get all the reps. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but you just got to get him back. He's so electric. He's so electric. Gross Matos is another one. I was at one of the training camp practices where he was working out on the side and looked great. I was talking with Raj and Brad and Steph and, all the different, whatever. And we're like, man, it looks like he's coming back soon. And I said, I was like, well, he looks good. You got to see how his knee responds because this is a knee that he's had 3 or 4 issues on. I was really kind of shocked the Niners kept him, to be honest with you. But over Leonard Floyd, should have kept Leonard Floyd now in hindsight, but we can't get there now. Younger, cheaper. That's what it's all about. And he hasn't responded. So now he's a pup candidate. And this is another man, just keep him on the pup because that's a free roster spot. So why bring him back now? Give him the extra 2 weeks, and that allow him to have a month, and then we can bring him off the pup if, break glass in case of emergency, just like you did last year. But, man, Yetur Gross-Matos was supposed to be your NASCAR package. You wanted him doing that instead of Mikel to allow Mikel to learn and be brought up to speed, but he just can't get healthy.
Yeah, and now it's probably going to be Sam Okawanu some. It won't just be Mikael Williams, but we've seen them move Sam O in there a lot last year, and he he can rush the passer. It's not going to be as dynamic as Gross Matos. He doesn't have the athletic ability to really put pressure on guards laterally, but he finds ways. He's just one of those guys that continues to work. So I think he'll be a big part of that. And at some point, hopefully, Gross Matos will be healthy because the 49ers kept him because he's good against the guards in this league rushing the passer, and they see the ability there to kind of put him inside. He's still got that big physical frame. He's very much a lot like Mikael Williams as far as design of player. And so I think that that's interesting to see him, but it's going to be a while now because I do think he's going to be on the PUP list to start the season, and we won't see him for the first part of the season.
Yep, there we go. And so I'm with you there. Lori says, when's the cut down day? It's Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. So Tuesdays, and we talk about this, and, this is a constant just reminder, these are freaking dreams. And sad thing is, probably 90% of NFL players, their last moment in the NFL is being cut, which sucks. They don't get to go out on top in Disneyland and Super Bowl and whatever else. And right off, that's not normal. What is common is your last day in the NFL is getting cut. So Tuesday, and we talk about these players, and this is a football centric show, and we talk tape and X's and O's. That's what we're trying to get accomplished here. The human side of this is very real, and as we talk about these players that struggle and whatever else, just remember, that's families, that's mothers. They got mothers, they got sons, daughters, wives, all that stuff. So I try to constantly do that. I'm not great at it, and sometimes I overreact emotionally, and I apologize for that. I'm still improving. I think this is, this is show number 1,487, which is stupid, but it's still got a ways to go, and I've got to improve on that as well. So things to keep in mind there. Now, other player, Mikael Williams, is close to returning day by day. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the last practice in the week, kind of in the walkthrough Friday, doesn't play Saturday, see how he responds and gets out there, the following week after the days off, Monday or Tuesday practice. Mikael Williams, what are your thoughts there on him returning?
Yeah, I think it's going to be next week. I think he'll come back and they'll start working him in. They'll get him back into shape. He'll have practice days on, days off as they rest. That way, when he gets to that week to prepare for Seattle, he's full go, ready to go to prepare for Seattle, and they'll work him right into, his position to get out there and make an impact. And I think he's going to. I think he's going to make an impact. This was a small little setback, but he was further along than some of the other guys who had setbacks. So I think he'll be just fine. Setting the edge in the run game, that's what he's going to do well. He'll still generate pass rush. It's going to be a lot of fun to see Mikael Williams out there healthy.
Oh, that's awesome. He's our first rounder, man. You need that dude out there. And so I'm pretty excited to see what that's going to look like. Now, Ben Barch, elbow, he's working on the side of the field. He's all strapped up, looking like RoboCop out there. Jordan James, the running back, the finger surgery. The good thing with that is you can still work out. So he's going to be ready to go. He's out there. It's not a lower body. You can run full speed. You can do squats. You can lift. You can do everything. It's just you can't have contact with that fingers. You got to hold the ball. So I'm not overly concerned about Jordan James, which, man, you're going to need because, Isaac Guerendo's back now, and I freaking hope that dude has no more injuries the rest of his career. But, at some point, let's just be real. You're going to need Jordan James as your number 2 or number 1 this season. That's just I don't know. Running back is a major concern for me.
Yeah, I think they're going to be, ready to roll, when the season starts. Guerendo's back. Christian McCaffrey's been good to go. Jordan James will be back and fully healthy by then. And then you got Jeff Wilson Jr. And Jeff Wilson Jr., what you're going to get out of him. He's a tough runner. He's going to read the hole correctly. He's going to be physical, and he's going to block his butt off. That's just what he does.
Great pass blocking reps out there, man. He saved Mac Jones's life 2 or 3 times.
He just knows how to play in this system. He's the guy they count on. And so I think he's going to do just fine. I think he's going to be successful. And you got a good makeup now of young players with a couple of veterans with McCaffrey and Jeff Wilson Jr. And I think that they're comfortable with that running back room, and probably the reason they made some of the decisions that they made.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm excited. Man, week 1's here. Shout out to Sonia. She's one of the best ever. She says, last time we played Seattle, we had an issue containing Geno in that last quarter. That was Yetur Grossmont, man. I will never forget that. Leonard Floyd and Yetur Grossmont just both quit on that play, but whatever. All right. They're not playing. Neither one of those guys are shooting up for us. Now she finishes with, I'm excited to see Saleh with this defense again. I'm pretty pumped, man. Week 1 is here. And I am excited. I am very, very excited about this. And, Rob, you got to talk about Isaac Guerendo's amazing run last year. Seattle, probably the high point of the season was that away game in Seattle last year. Your only divisional win. You went 1-5. Hate to bring that up. But, man, that run, Guerendo, freaking 50-plus yarder, got caught, slid, whatever you want to say there. That was huge. It was Isaac Guerendo. Shout out to the man, Rob Johnson, the Johnson family, great friend. He says, how did Guerendo look back at practice? He was huge upside. Well, that's the thing. He hurt his shoulder. Very similar to Jordan James. Like, you can run with a hurt shoulder. You just can't have contact. So you can go through the motions. You can do the handoffs, ball drills. You can catch. You can do a lot of that. Just no contact, which he got hurt on a special teams collision drill, which is kind of par for course for Guerendo. But, there's no ramp up there because his legs, he's been working just like Jordan James. So the fact that, Isaac Guerendo's back, it's just contact's the issue. I do not expect to see Isaac Guerendo out there in this preseason game. I really hope that they don't. Man, I'm doing Keyshawn Vaughn. I'm doing Jeff Wilson. It's those guys. Y'all are running 50 times each. But Jordan James, I want those guys ready for week 1. And so I'm not concerned about Guerendo and his return getting up to speed because he's been working his legs out just like Jordan James with his finger injury. So, right here. Purdy doesn't lose in Seattle. I've been to 3 consecutive 49ers road victories in Seattle. I don't think we've been able to say that for a long time. I would like to make that 4. Man, this has been a fun chat, and I do have to say, just hats off to you and the content that you continue to put out. If anybody here is watching or listening to this show and you have not gone and subscribed to 49ers Cutback, get your butts over there. Let's go. Ant's the freaking man, does great stuff. And we appreciate our time on Thursdays for the Coach Approach with you guys. We'll keep doing this all season. Ant, anything that we can pay attention to, upcoming shows, schedule that you got working?
Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to put out an episode about the guys who really need to have a good performance against the Chargers, maybe that are kind of on the fringe of making this roster. We're going to kind of go through those guys as we look at this as a roster building opportunity. For some of these guys, it's their last chance to put it on film. And I know that there's a lot of things that have already been decided. But when it comes to this, if you got 2 guys that are neck and neck, a great performance or showing improvement could be the thing that teeters you over the top to make this team. So I'm going to talk about those guys tomorrow.
Love it, man. Love it. You guys are the best. And it is rough out there on these 49er streets. But that's why we're called the Faithful. And that's why I end every single show the same way since I started this damn thing. And it's the same thing. Being a fan is illogical. It's fanatic by definition. But you're a fan. You're the faithful. You're not just any fan. You're not a Cowboys fan. You're not a Seattle fan that just got born in just started rooting for your team, even though you lived in the city. Come on. I know there's some actual Seattle fans, but they're rare, few and far between. We are the freaking faithful. Stay faithful. And as faithful, stay strong. You guys are the best. Until next time. Peace.